Hello, world. Welcome to Chats with Baba. Baba is a global term for elder or grandfather. So I've reached that. I've lived long enough to be considered as an elder, and I live under the term of being called Baba. Well, the purpose of this podcast is to inform and empower parents of young Black children. It's important to know and understand that parents are the first and foremost teachers in the lives of children. And to inform them is to enable them to release the natural genius in Black children. Black children have untapped and underdeveloped gifts. And what makes a difference is the experience and exposure relative to tapping into these gifts. And what we want to do, and one of the goals of the podcast, is to move from miseducation to high quality education. We want parents to strive for excellence as they deal with their developing children. Over the last few weeks, I've paid attention to the importance of play in the development of babies. I've talked about the possibility of lost learning because of the pandemic. And I want to pause there for a moment to say that what you can do, parents, if you have concerns about what your children may have lost because of the disruptions in this school calendar, you might want to do one of several things. A, there are many high schools that have what they call service learning or volunteer services, where juniors and seniors can possibly provide tutoring in the area of reading to children, or helping them with word recognition, or helping them with their early math skills. So you can do that by either calling the high schools and find out if they have a service learning project. Or in some cases, you can, if there's a local college, 2-year college or 4-year college, call the Department of Education, because often they have built into their programs situations where students who are majoring in education who can serve as a tutor for your child. I want to mention one other thing, that as we talk about children and the natural genius in them, I mentioned last week one of the foremost scholars and a very dear friend before he transitioned, has said that in his going about, there's two things you always want to do with children. You want to treat them like human beings, and you want to love them. With those two characteristics, there isn't anything that children won't do. So today, what I want to move a little bit away from talking about the babies and talk about the next stage of development, which would be infants. Infants are curious and interesting because they are now mobile. They're up and walking. They're beginning to talk and do all of those kinds of things. That particular period in their life is critical relative to the kinds of experiences that they get into, and they're curious in terms of exploring and looking at different things, and they react to things differently than babies. They can respond to our language, what we ask them to do. And they also pay attention to the behavior that they see in us. And sometimes that which they see in us, they model and do that back to us. So we have to be aware of what we do. It's also important to recognize now, between the years of 2 and 4, so much happens in the development of the children. Their mobility, their speech, and their language really comes into play. And there are so many opportunities to enhance what you observe about them. I want to talk about two situations today, and one of them, what I make reference to, is called the teachable moment. Okay, the teachable moment. And there's these are moments that just they occur, they happen, and there are infinite teaching moments when you're talking about this stage of development, infants moving into the preschool years. And teachable moments are really unplanned opportunities. They just arise when something captures the child's attention or what he or she is engaged in. For example, a week ago, I was pulled into the neighborhood coffee drive-through to get my morning cup of coffee and a donut. And there was a string of cars, and I could look in the mirror and see two children moving from one car to the next. And I knew eventually they would get to me. So as the little boy came up to me, I rolled my window down, and his opening words were, "Good morning, sir." I was impressed. I said, "How you doing?" He said, "Fine." I said, "What are you?" I said, "What are you doing out here?" He said, "Oh, we're selling incense." I said, "Incense? What is that?" He said, "Oh, it's something you light and it makes your house smell good." So now this is the teachable moment. I said, "Okay." I said, "Tell me about what you have in the package." And he held it up. He said, "Sir, this is a package of incense. They cost $2, but we take a dollar donation." I said, "You take a dollar donation?" I thought I could. I said, "What if I want to give you a nickel?" He said, "Oh, we'll take it all." I said, "Okay." I said, "Tell me a little more about the incense. Tell me a little more about it." I said, "I'm looking at the package." And he said, "Well, there are, I don't know," he said, "there are about 10 or 12 in here." And I said, "Well, what do you do with them?" He said, "Well, you strike a match, you light it, and it gives the house a nice smell." I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Gives the house a nice smell." Okay. I said, "Could I have it in my car?" He looked at me. He said, "Well, if you want to." I said, "Okay." I said, can you smell it with your hand?" He looked at me with a strange look. He said, "No." I said, "Oh, what do you use?" He said, "Oh, you use your nose." I said, "Okay." I said, "Okay." I said, I tell you what, you seem to be a very intelligent young man." He said, "Well, thank you, sir." So I reached in, I gave him a dollar, and I gave him 4 quarters. And I said to him, I said, "You seem to be pretty smart." I said, "Do you go to school?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Are you intelligent?" I said, "Are you smart? Are you smart?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Can you read?" He said, "No, not yet." This is the interaction that was taking place with this young man. And I'm pointing all this out to say that this was a teachable moment. And in a teachable moment, one of the most effective ways is just by asking questions, because the child will respond to you. Children look for opportunities to talk. And so he and I, we went back and forth for a moment. And then obviously I said, "Son, oh, while you're out here, always be careful of who you talk to, how you talk to them, you know." And so I paid him I gave him the $2, and he said, "Thank you, sir." And he went on. My point is, that is a teachable moment. It just came up. You know, he came around to the car, and I'm always intrigued by children anyhow. Now, let me share another situation with you. As I was talking with another friend, and she was telling me about this a little boy, a couple of years of age, and she was either babysitting or doing something, and he was playing with a truck, or somehow the idea of a truck came up, and he mentioned this truck that was a cement truck or a concrete truck. And as she was sharing this story with me, I kind of chuckled. I said, because this was a teachable moment. And you know, somewhere he encountered this cement truck. Now, the good news is, build off of what they say to you. Truck, a cement truck. Just go into questions. Well, what is a cement truck? And whatever he knows about it, he's going to share with you. So the teachable moment becomes with, okay, what does a truck do? Obviously, it carries something. How does it work? You know, obviously, it has a motor. What else does it do? It rolls. How does it roll? It rolls on wheels, and on and on and on. So my point is that with this age child, the natural curiosity just unfolds as they explore and experience things. And it's an opportune time for you as the parent just to observe and to ask questions. You may not always have the answer, but you look at what he or she is engaged in and just build on that. You don't have to plan it. You don't have to come up with anything. Just look at what they're engaging in and just kind of go back and forth. So here's an opportunity with a young man who was walking through the parking lot. And the teacher in me always says, ask questions. Then here's a situation where a young lady was babysitting, and a little boy said something about a cement truck, and I think she got a little puzzled there for a moment. But as she was sharing with me, I said, this is a teachable moment. You just ask, where did the idea of a cement, where did he or she get it from? Somewhere in the experience or exposure, he encountered a cement truck. You don't have to plan anything. You look at what he knows about the truck or doesn't know, and your inclination is to kind of at least ask questions to see what he or she can say about that particular object. Not just a truck, almost any object. You know, given when you see them doing things, you engage them in that process. Because as I said earlier, the years between 2 and 4 provides innumerable opportunities for you to have a teachable moment. Now, there are times when you, in fact, you can create a teachable moment just by looking at children and seeing what they're doing. And often they will give you clues that they're not quite certain of what they're doing, and for you or how to get into something. For example, there are times when they're trying to either open something or do something with an object and not quite sure what to do. From your observation, then you can kind of at least push them along or ask questions. What seems to be the problem? Oh, I can't do this. Okay, let's explore and see what it is that you're trying to do. So what I'm saying is, in these teachable moments, and they will come all the time. The children are engaged in doing stuff that you will see unlimited opportunities to deal with them. And the idea is to explore with them what the possibilities are. For example, Mommy, what is this? I don't know. How does it work? I don't know. Let's see. Let's see what we can do with it. Does it turn? Does it open? What does it do? So while you're doing this, you're also responding to that child's natural inclination, because, as I said, children are naturally curious. Teachable moments are unplanned, but you can create teachable moments just by paying attention to what children are doing, and you capture the moments of their curiosity by asking questions and seeing how they respond to what it is that you're saying. And this is an opportunity to explain the why behind whatever their question is. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but it just gives you a chance to engage and spend a moment with them. So just the concept of the teachable moment, as I said, it just arises. The idea behind the teachable moment is to facilitate or stimulate children's learning. Teachable moments just happen, or teachable moments are things that you can create. For example, teaching occurs through talking with them. Teaching occurs through playing with them. Teaching occurs through singing with them. Teaching occurs with hands-on opportunity activities. Teaching occurs just by asking them questions. I mean, for example, I remember when my son, who is now a grown man, was in preschool, and he was in a laboratory school at the university, and he was the only Black kid in the lab school. And Jim had an afro that was huge. His afro was bigger than his head. And he said, Dad, he came home and he said, how was your day at school today? He said, Dad, they always want to touch my hair. They come up, they want to pat my hair. I said, does it bother you? He said, well, sometimes, they just want to come up and touch it. And so I took that as a moment to say, well, maybe they would like to have their hair like yours. Because remember, there's nobody else in the classroom that looks like you. You're different, brother. I said, you're special. And they sometimes, maybe they wish they could be like you. Maybe their hair wish they could be like yours. And at the time, there was a record out, I can't remember the name, H.R. Puff and stuff. And there was a little boy on there, I think his name was Jimmy. So I said, remember the record. And remember, Jimmy was a special boy. It's like, I said, so you are special. And he would just smile. And I guess what I'm saying is, pay attention to what children do, and pay attention to the things that they engage in, because they have endless questions. You hear me? They have endless questions. And sometimes I know as parents, we say, my God, I can't answer that. Yes, you can. And if there's some degree of uncertainty, you just say that. Now, let me just get back to this particular period of time between 2 and 4, because there are countless opportunities for children. And sometimes they occur within the home, sometimes they occur outside the home. And so what you want to do is to, as I said, you can create teachable moments. One of the things that I always suggest to parents is that children love to plant things, and you can create these miniature gardens by either having the plastic containers with a little potting soil and put seeds in there. Allow them to periodically water them. Allow them to periodically go and check on them, and put them in places where they can get sunlight. And in a short period of time, you will see something growing. If that intrigues them, oh, mommy, look, something, yeah. So you can create opportunities for them to increase their own learning by planting things. You can also, when they're inside, you can have finger paints. Sometimes it gets a little messy, but that's just a part of the process. So you can have paper plates, and you can take little pieces of cut up paper, create faces, create different patterns, create things that often they're nonsense opportunities. You can cut out letters. You can have things where they can glue and paste them down. All I'm saying is that during this is an awesome time to stimulate their development and to stimulate their learning by exploring things within the house and outside of the house. No matter, I guess what I'm saying is when we look at this time in terms of opportunities for learning, there is no better time, because what you're doing is part of that foundation. All of what goes on during this period is moving them towards becoming, it's very informal teaching, informal learning, and eventually it continues to lay the foundation as they get ready for more formalized learning. That's something we'll talk about somewhere down the road. But I want to come back to something that I talked about last week, which is all a part of the infants and toddler development. That is play. That is play. That is the vehicle by which they maximize the learning, and parenting of young children is an awesome responsibility, because in all of what you do, one of the important factors is safety, is to make sure that they won't harm themselves, to make sure that what they're playing with, they don't put in their mouth and swallow, to make sure that there's nothing that endangers them. You don't want to have sharp objects around. You don't want to have anything around them that can cause harm, or anything that's breakable glass, things of that nature. So I always emphasize that the kind of products that you have around them are non-perishables, paper, cardboard, things of that nature. So again, during this particular podcast, I wanted to put emphasis on the teachable moment. I wanted to talk about those things that you can do to either take advantage of the teachable moment, as well as you can create the teachable moment. And you create that just by from your observation and things of that nature. So in today's podcast, emphasis is on the teachable moment, those which are natural and those that you can create. So I'm going to bring to a close today's chat on the teachable moment. I want you to go to my website, drjamesyoung.com, and you will see a couple of books there. One that talks about From Roots to Wings Revisited. In there, there's a profile with some degree of specificity of the things that's doable to enhance their intellectual development and cultural development. We're living at a time that's very challenging. We know more about children today than we've ever known before. And I think it's important, the world that they're going to live in, they need to have all of the knowledge and skills so that they can survive and thrive during that period. We're living at a time when there are lots of books and materials that are being written by people of color relative to the genius in our children. We didn't have this before, but there's a proliferation of them that's out there. But there's and all of these materials will help you in the process of parenting. All these materials will help you in the process of what do you do, because this is an important period. Childhood is a time, it's fleeting. In terms of life, it's the shortest period, but it is that time when you lay out that foundation. Now, parenting is there, as you know, there are all sorts of challenges, and there's not a perfect parent, but they're good parents. So with that, this concludes our podcast today on looking at the teachable moments with young children. Bye now.